Philly took the Raptors to 7 games in the Eastern Conference semifinals, which in retrospect looks pretty darn good, especially with what the Raptors did after that. What do you think of this Philadelphia team moving forward?
They're close, but they're not complete. And they need to make tweaks to their roster, and they also need to address things within the personnel that they already have. I mean, Ben Simmons has to continue to evolve as a player. I didn't see a lot of difference between year 1 and year 2. So, if he comes back and is a more viable perimeter threat, in some ways that's almost like adding a free agent to your team if he can add that to his game. Joel Embiid, he's a guy that you're always going to have questions about his health and his long-term availability, but he's a guy that has to understand how important it is for him to be physical and dominate inside the paint and not become more of a perimeter-based player throughout the course of games or playoff series the way he did this year. But there's no question, when you look at the lineup that they put out there once they made those trades and they got Jimmy Butler, they got Tobias Harris, this was a team that on paper probably had the second best starting lineup in the entire league besides Golden State. But they're not quite there. There's some immaturity there, and there needs to be further development. But there's no doubt they're right on the cusp.
They got Butler, as you said, in a midseason trade, and they were sort of going all in because Jimmy Butler is a free agent this summer. How vital is it that the Sixers get him? I
think he's critical. He's a must. And you got the two big names, Tobias Harris, Jimmy Butler, right? So they're trying to figure out, where's the money going to be allocated? Both of these guys are free agents. For me, Jimmy Butler's got to be your top priority because he answers some things in terms of being a perimeter player that can get his own shot anywhere on the floor that you have to win a championship in this league. Just look at the long list of champions. They have players that play on the perimeter that can score from anywhere. And that's not what you get in Ben Simmons. That's not what you get in Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid can score from anywhere, but he's not a perimeter-based player with the kind of handle that can escape in this big situation and just go make a tough shot off the bounce. Every team that wins a championship has one of those guys, and Jimmy Butler answers that bill, and he plays both ends of the floor. There's a toughness there, and people had questions about him going into the playoffs in Philadelphia. I know, I live in that market. They were wondering, because he had some quiet nights.
Yep.
He answered all that when he got to the postseason. And he said, this is what you brought me here for, because he elevated his game, and he was the one guy that did not seem fazed by any moment that they faced in the playoffs.
Well, what does that mean for Tobias Harris, then, if they go after Butler?
Look, there's talk that they're going to maybe offer both of these guys max money. And I look at a guy like Tobias Harris and I say 5 years, $188 million. You're going to give Jimmy Butler the same contract? I just don't think they're on the same level. So to me, there are guys that can replicate what Tobias Harris does that I think you can get for a lot less money and prioritize Jimmy Butler. Because here's the thing that I worry about for the Sixers. If you go all in on Butler and you go all in on Tobias Harris, and now you're well into the luxury tax category, if something happens with Joel Embiid's health or Ben Simmons doesn't continue to evolve as a player, where are you going to be in a couple of years with untradeable contracts and potentially something that looked very promising that now looks like just a team full of bad contracts that's good but not great and never going to get over the hurdle? So I think that's something that they really need to weigh.
You started off saying they're close. What pieces can you see them adding that really makes them a contender?
You have to add shooting and guys that play both ends of the floor, but shooting is the top priority. And I look at some of the potential free agents that are out there that seem like they would be a good fit here, particularly where the price tag. You look at a guy like Bogdanovich in Indiana. He plays both ends of the floor. He's a better defender than Tobias Harris, comparable offensive player, and you're going to get him for much less money than you're going to have to pay Tobias Harris. Look at a guy like Danny Green. This is a guy, again, plays both ends of the floor. To me, a perfect complement to play off of the double teams that Joel Embiid sees, to play off of a guy that can get in the lane like Ben Simmons, knock down threes, made a ton of playoff shots, ton of playoff games in his career. And then even a guy like Patrick Beverley, the toughness, the edge, the on-the-ball defense, and he's a pretty darn good 35 to 40% three-point shooter consistently. If you get a guy like that, he could play off the ball, but I also think put the ball in his hands more, let Ben Simmons play more of that 4 spot, which they seem reluctant to do. They want to absolutely peg him as the point guard, and I think it's a mistake at times with Ben Simmons. So those are some examples of guys, and it won't cost you nearly as much. Patrick Beverley makes $5 million now.
Yeah.
Those other two guys make $10 million. Now, they're going to want more than they're making now, but certainly not close to the $188 million you're going to pay Tobias Harris.
Okay. Well, the Sixers have been making strides, getting better each year. We'll see if they get over the hump. Tim Legler giving us his thoughts on Philadelphia.